Alright, so this is going to be a D.Va tip video by a guy who's spent countless hours on D.Va. So, D.Va is probably one of the most versatile tanks on the Overwatch roster, with arguably the best ability in the game. Yet, at the same time, she's one of the hardest heroes to master and play well due to the amount of game sense she requires. Her skill ceiling is very high. A good D.Va with the use of her abilities and being able to eat vital enemy ultimates and cooldowns such as Grav, Onanade, Sleep can easily win the game for her team. But, misuse of those abilities and poor positioning can absolutely negate her from the game and just have you playing Respawn Simulator. But the question becomes, what are the things you should be doing on D.Va every game? What tips will drastically improve your ability to play D.Va? Well, I've compiled a list and let's get right into it. Alright, so tip number one is to understand your positioning and how important it is to have a balance of attacking and defending. This first tip is almost obvious, but probably the most important piece of information for playing D.Va or any character as a matter of fact. D.Va is easily one of the most punishable characters in the game. With her large hitbox, it's almost impossible to not hit her with your abilities, i.e. a hog hook, and if you're out of position, one cooldown can easily punish you and kill you. When playing D.Va, you need to understand when it's time to engage and time to defend. Some questions you need to constantly ask yourself are, where are my supports? Are they safe? Are there any threats to them that may be in our backline like a tracer? If the answer is yes, then you should probably play more conservatively and close to your supports, at least a jet's length away. But if the answer is no, then you can look to engage on the enemy team diving with your Winston, Ball, or whoever they may be. Keeping your supports alive means your team stays alive. If your team stays alive, then you win the game. Understand that you need to find the perfect middle ground at all times, pretty much. You need to be in the position to help keep your supports alive, or help your DPS, or dive an out of position target. Now, due to D.Va's high mobility, another threat to your team would be an enemy hero taking advantage of the high ground. It's your job to force that enemy off the high ground so long as it does not come at the cost of your mech. Now, I firmly believe that keeping your supports alive is a top priority on D.Va. Learning the perfect ebb and flow of attacking and defending will come with hours on D.Va. But at first, especially if you're a new D.Va player, try to always be in a position to help your supports when they need it, and you will provide value for your team. It's that simple. Alright, so tip number two is to learn how to save your DM and not unnecessarily waste it. So, D.Va is the only hero who is able to consistently negate abilities in the game. So track when enemies use abilities, such as if Ana just used her nade, then you don't need to worry about her anting your team for 10 seconds, so try to save your DM. You can completely negate Roadhog's value as a character if you just play near a corner and wait to DM his hooks. Another good use is to use your DM to help with rotations so your team does not die during those rotations. Oftentimes you will find teams with better positioning and rotations usually win the games. Your DM can help your squishies be able to safely rotate to a better position without getting picked off. Now, the last thing I recommend is to use DM for a teammate who is about to die or has a very high chance they're about to take a lot of damage. Now would be as good of a time as ever to use defense measures to keep them alive. It's important to only use it to lower the risk of you or your team dying. If that's not the case, then you're most likely wasting your DM. Alright, so tip number three is to learn to maximize D.Va's ult. So there are usually two uses for using D.Va's bomb. One is to remech after you get caught out in a bad spot and the team fight is still going on and still winnable. However, be careful doing this because you can very easily be punished while you're waiting for your bomb to explode before getting back into your mech. Now, number 2 is to use it to change the tempo of the fight. If your team is down resources or has just lost map control, throwing in your D.Va bomb can easily take pressure off of your team and claim that space back. Or you can use it as a space claiming ultimate. It's one of the few ultimates that can force teams to move somewhere. Now, there are also set spots where D.Va players can abuse the lack of cover in a map while bombing to secure themselves some likely kills. If you watch experienced D.Va players, you can learn these spots fairly quickly. Or if you have the time, you can explore in a custom game and try to find them yourself, or even completely new spots no one's found yet. But keep in mind, if you use D.Va's ult with boosters, it will go as far as it can with the boosters. It can be very beneficial to spend some time learning how the boosters interact with bombs. If you shoot the bomb straight up in the air while just activating boosters, then most likely the bomb's just going to explode too high and not do any damage to anyone, unless there's an unlucky Pharah in the air. But instead, learn how long you need to boost before activating bomb so it will land in a place where it will be able to secure a kill. Also, another obscure way to use a bomb is to learn areas where you can slide your bomb across a wall with boosters only for it to slide off at the last second and catch enemies off guard. Throwing a bomb straight at them so they can fully see where it's coming from is relatively easy to be avoided. Now, throwing it off a wall will cause the bomb to be harder to read and most likely secure you a few extra kills. Note, you have to learn how to properly angle the boosters on the wall so it just doesn't stick to the wall and you waste your ult. Alright, so tip number 4 is to understand your matchups in the hero pool. A common counter to D.Va is Zarya because there's little to anything at all for you to do against her. The best thing to do is play out of her range until you can find an advantage to kill her when she's half health. If she ever manages to just completely melt your mech, then that most likely means you are just playing way out of position and it's your fault. If you know she has grav, just try to stay close enough in range and in sight lines to eat the grav. But don't let her and her team just melt you down so she can have a free grav. Also, other heroes D.Va tends to struggle against are Echo, Genji, Mei, Reaper, Sombra, Sim, Tracer, and also in most cases, like everyone else, Brig. Now, most of these characters either have an ability or a primary fire that D.Va cannot DM, or they're easily able to just burst down her mech. If you find yourself around one of these heroes, try and play smartly and not get into a 1v1 unless you are absolutely sure that you can secure that kill. Now, tip number 5 isn't really a tip, it's just a few obscure things about D.Va. Number 1 is, one not really unusual part about D.Va's kit is her absolutely massive hitbox like we mentioned earlier. Normally this isn't a good thing, however there are times that you will be able to easily bodyblock an enemy from escaping to safety. Now keep in mind, this is very risky, but when it's performed successfully, it can secure a kill on an enemy who would otherwise escape. Number 2 is, if you find yourself in a spot where you're out of DM, but you also need to protect a teammate, simply standing in front of them will force you to take the damage instead of your teammate. But keep in mind, only do this if your HP allows you to. The third thing is, also D.Va can provide knockback from her boosters. A lot of people forget about this and find an enemy close to an edge and don't think to use boosters to knock them back off the edge. It's definitely, not as consistent as Lucio's boop, but if you manage to get it down, you can find yourself getting easy boop kills due to most players just forgetting she has the ability to boop them. Now, it also can be used to push a diving Winston or a ball when they're trying to dive your team on high ground. though, this will take a little bit of practice to get used to. Also, lastly, this is another use of D.Va's kit, but rarely ever able to be used effectively. You can bomb on the edge of a high ground and use the baby D.Va form to push the bomb off the edge and down onto the enemy team, and maybe catch a few unsuspecting players, though this is a very rare time and it would most likely be more useful to just use the bomb normally, unless you're completely confident in your abilities to pull this off. Alright, well there you have it. I hope these 5 tips will help you out and improve your D.Va gameplay. She's one of the most fun and influential heroes in the game, so if you play tank, she is absolutely one to add to your kit for you to climb SR. Now, leave a comment if you enjoyed this video, and if there's enough demand, I will do other heroes if I'm able to. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Adios.